Welcome back, Birds fans, to a Monday, July 8th edition of Birds 365. If you missed the top of the show, ready? We are 15 days away from training camp reporting on July 23rd. We are 24 days away from the Eagles' open practice to the public on August 1st. We are 59 days away from the NFL opener on September 5th, and we are 60 days away from the Eagles kicking off in Sao Paulo, Brazil versus the Green Bay Packers. It's all coming quick. Thanks everybody for being here on this Monday. Johnny Mac, we're running out of time. We only have 32 minutes left to play here. Let's get right into this topic. I want you to have the chance to open here. We'll each give a couple. Eagles breakout candidates for 2024. Full disclosure for everybody listening. Guys like A.J. Brown, guys like Devontae Smith, guys like Jalen Hurts, guys like I would even say Jalen Carter. They are not breakout candidates. These are guys who have already broken out in their career. They are established players on this football team. We're looking for breakout candidates. Johnny Mac, I'll start with you. Who's a breakout candidate you have for 2024?
Yeah, I'm with you. I know it was at ESPN to put Jalen Carter. I'm like, dude, he already broke out. He played at a high level last season. Even though you're disappointed about how he finished, I mean, he was still one of the best defensive tackles in football. I start with Milton Williams for, I think, obvious reasons. When you think about Fletcher Cox retiring, you have that open sort of area which needs to be filled when it comes to snap counts. I think Milton's already a really good player. Now he's going to get the opportunity to play more. And I think, he'll be effective. The numbers will be up and people will notice more. So I think he's clear and above my number one because I think he's going to be successful. From there, you kind of look at opportunity, and Tyler Steen has the opportunity. They want him to win the job. He should win the job, and he's going to be playing on one of the best offensive lines in football if that's the case. So he's going to be helped by playing next to Lane Johnson. Um, Even with Cam Jurgens, we know the Eagles like him, and he should be probably on this list as well. But I don't put him on the list because he was already a Pro Bowl alternate at right guard. So I don't
Yeah, I
know how
agree.
much of it is a breakout. Um, so Tyler Steen would be my second. And then maybe third is because I think there's going to be opportunity for Zach Bond as well on defense.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one.
Um, And I don't know if it's going to be as an all ball linebacker or more of an Andrew Van Ginkel like role that we've talked about. But I think he's going to get an opportunity to play some. And I'm specifically not mentioning the rookies because I don't know. How do you break out from college? It's just my definition. So it's not,
Well, Jalen Carter kind of did.
but no, I'm saying I wouldn't have considered if we did this list
Right.
last
Okay.
year.
I got you.
I wouldn't have considered him a breakout candidate. I don't consider him a breakout candidate this year because he already played well last year. Um, so again, it depends on people's definitions, but I look at guys who, um, you know, what they've done in the NFL and breaking out from that. Jalen's already done enough for me to say, all right, you're good. You're good.
All right, I got a couple here that I want to run by. A couple of them are maybe teetering on the fence of kind of already broken out, but I think they take the next step in their career, if that makes sense. I'll start with my number one, Nolan Smith. I think Nolan Smith has a good year this year. I think he is a breakout candidate in a big way. Hassan Reddick is not back. He was the prototype for the player they drafted. He is the guy that fits the mold. I know they brought in Bryce Huff. We'll get to him in a second, but I think Nolan Smith has a chance here to make an impact if he gets the snaps, and if he does make the impact, he'll get more snaps. So I think he has the chance to put up around 5 sacks this year. In my opinion, that would be a breakout for him. Show trajectory that he's going to be the edge rusher we need him to be in the future. So he will be my number one, Nolan Smith. My number two, John, you're going to like this one. Keely Ringo, cornerback. I think he is going to be your starting outside cornerback opposite Darius Slay. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think he's going to be a physical guy. I think he's going to be a cornerback that the fans in Philly like and they gravitate to. I know that doesn't always matter, but I just think he's that physical, bigger bodied corner. We haven't seen a corner like him in a while. I think he has a huge year this year. And then my third candidate for breaking out, you could maybe argue he already has, but I think it becomes more evident this year, is Jordan Davis. Stephen Patton puts it in the chat. I think Jordan Davis, I know he's already been good. I'm not saying he hasn't been good. I think this year is the year that people see how good he really is or how good he can be. I think it will be more evident that he's a good player. So those are my three: Nolan Smith, Keely Ringo, and Jordan Davis. And if you want me to give you an extra one, I'd say Bryce Huff. I know Bryce Huff had a last year,
Yeah.
but
See, well, those guys don't count. Bryce doesn't count for
it does
me.
count.
For
Jordan, I
me,
guess Jordan
Jordan
does.
doesn't count for me. I like your Nolan. I should have mentioned Nolan. I like your Nolan Smith one. I love Kelly Ringo as a player. I do think the opportunity is probably not going to be there unless somebody gets hurt, because they want to get Quinion Mitchell on the field for better or
I
for
don't know.
worse.
I just, do you think, I think that organizationally you're right. But do you think Vic Fangio is
No,
that old
I
school
think
guy?
Vic will play who's best, but I think Quinion's going to play well. So it's
Yeah, I
sort of
do too. I just wonder if Keely fits better and they have no problem keeping Quinion on the bench for a year. I mean, look, Slay's not going to be here long term. The guy's 34. So, I think they see it in the future where the opportunity to get him on the field is there anyway. So, I guess he's a
yeah.
little bit of a sleeper. You're
I
right.
love Kelly Ringo as a prospect, as people know, but he's going to be good, and the Eagles drafted him where they drafted him for a reason, and he's got a natural ability to break on the football. That's what this defense does. It's not going to be a ton of press coverage. Um, I just think that he's going to start week one, and as long as he stays healthy, he's going to remain out there.
Yeah, so we'll see. James Carver says, "What about Devin White as a breakout candidate?" I don't think Johnny Mack will put him on his list. I guess you could. I mean, you
Oh,
could
he's an
argue.
all pro.
You could
How
argue
can you
Nakobe
break
Dean would
out
be
if
in
you've
there.
been an all pro?
You can
I'm being
argue that Nakobe
facetious.
Dean would be in there, Johnny Mack.
Yeah, Nakobe could be in there. And I still, if you ask me, what has to happen for this team to have competent linebacker play, it starts with Nakobe Dean for me. It does not start with Devin White or Zach Bond. It starts with Nakobe Dean. So the opportunity is going to be there. This is his last opportunity, but it's tough to presume that it's going to be great. But that to me is where the optimism starts, Nakobe Dean. Um, you know, Devin White, either way you want to look at it, he's an all pro, or he's played 5 NFL seasons at a pretty low level, with the exception of a spectacular 3-game playoff run. Um, what's he breaking out from? Disgusting play.
What about the two
I guess
safeties?
you can.
Reed Blankenship, Sidney Brown. They could be two
Well,
breakout.
I
I
think
think Reed's
Reed's
kind of
good. I
already.
think Reed's good. It's funny. We're doing our top 25 Eagles. Ed Kratz and I. You can read it at si.com/NFL
Yeah, I've been following along. Pretty good stuff.
/Eagles. And I'll say it. After I get up the show, I have to do number 10. So I'll foreshadow it's going to be CJ Gardner Johnson. And number 15, I believe, between Ed and I. And we do this thing, and we make sure we don't talk to each other about it. So, obviously I have a predilection for certain players that he doesn't, and vice versa. But we're usually pretty concrete. It's not drastic. Reed ended up being number 15. So 2 of the Eagles' top 15 players are safeties, and everybody thinks they have no safeties. I don't. When are you bringing Justin Simmons in? Never, unless somebody gets hurt. But for whatever reason, people don't believe in Reed. We know what the reason is, because he was undrafted. Get over it. Pretend he wasn't undrafted. Look at his play.
Yeah, I thought he was a good player. I never disliked Reed Blankenship, honestly. I mean, I think there's maybe you could get better, but I guess you don't have to. I mean, you're not going to have all pros at every position, so I guess that's a good point. But could he reach the next level? I think that's what people are asking.
Yeah, I mean, he's still an ascending player, but again, we're talking breakouts. To me, he's already broken out. Like that would have been him from rookie to second year.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
To me, he's already played at, not that tallest short guy at the circus, the Eagles defense was so poor last year, but he was one of the best Eagles defenders. For all the talk of how talented this team is, you could do this by yourself if you're a fan. If you go look at who are the Eagles' best players, just best football players, not most impactful, because that's always the quarterback. With every team, good, bad, or indifferent, just the best pure football players. How I describe it is Bill Belichick rules: do your job, the best at their particular jobs. Reed Blankenship, 15th on one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. It's not bad.
How about Sidney Brown, John? What do you think of Sidney coming into the year? Coming on, he had a good rookie campaign. Obviously, got hurt at the end of the year, so he'll be battling back.
Yeah, I mean, Sidney's in the category as well. You could have mentioned Sidney. I think a lot of people forget about him because he's coming off the ACL. Out of sight, out of mind. He's not practicing. He's not going to practice until it gets much closer to the regular season. But 9 months is where the Eagles are typically going to wait. And he'll be back. His goal is week 1. They might be a little bit cautious. And I know since Arstenoda has gotten here, their chief medical officer, they're very stringent on waiting for those demarcation lines. Because remember, if you look at Sidney Brown today, and some people saw him at DeMonte's softball game, we get to see him in practice. He looks like he could play right now. I mean, he's running around. He's people know from the 99-yard touchdown how athletic he is. He's just tremendously athletic. But that particular injury needs a certain amount of time to heal properly. And, he got hurt in week 18. So, 9 months is going to be right around week 1, right around that exact time frame. And the Eagles are going to wait until that 9 months is, I guarantee it, they're going to wait until that's over before they think about bringing him back and playing him. And then you have, maybe they say, well, he needs a little bit of a ramp up period. He needs to be able to practice a week or two. So maybe you start talking about, 3 weeks or something like that. But I'm trying to look up real quick when the actual date was of week 18 last year, but it was January 7th.
Yeah,
January 7th.
First week.
So, do the math. September 7th. Right around. What is the opener? September 6th?
September 6th, Johnny, man.
Yeah.
60 days out, baby.
So he's probably not playing the opener because they'll be stringent, but he might be there week 2. Don't be surprised.
Good stuff from James Carver. Got a super chat. I'm going to go to that in a second. Guys, 64 likes on the show. If you guys are liking the show, if you enjoy Birds 365, make sure you drop a like. It'll help us reach more Eagles fans, especially as the season is right around the corner. So thank you all for that. We appreciate it. John, let's go to James Carver. He says, if White goes from being a McDonald's burger and bargain bin to prime rib with a Pro Bowl or All-Pro, is it a breakout or is it a comeback? Come on, cheerlead.
Cheerlead. It would be it's funny because people see the All-Pro and they would assume it's a comeback. It's probably a breakout because he's never played well over a full season. Again, he played It's one of the greatest
Didn't
anomalies
he
in
make All
sports.
Pro though 1 year? He did,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, but because he had 9.5 sacks. And people look at that and they say, "Oh, that's really good for a linebacker." It is, but I mean, if nobody's arguing Devin White's athleticism. Nobody's ever argued that. He goes straight ahead, and if you're blitzing him, and you have no other edge rushers, and he gets 9 sacks or whatever, it looks really, really good. And people take notice of that, just like they take notice of it with edge rushers who maybe get big numbers but aren't really playing as effectively because they're ignoring other parts of their game and things like that. So he had 9 sacks in 2020. And, you know, I'm trying to look up his PFF grade that year, which was probably his best year. And he was 62 of 83. Of 83 linebackers graded, he was number 62. And he made an all-pro team. I don't know what to say about that. That's just people don't know what they're looking at. And they look at a number in a column and say, "Oh,
well, what means more? I mean, there's a lot of people that push back on PFF, John, and say it's statistics and it's nerds and it's not real football. I
it
mean,
is nerds." No, it is real football.
it is.
They're essentially they're film grading like coaches would. So it is real football. It's way closer to real football. And I love the people that hate PFF, and I get that a lot last week when I mentioned his PFF grades. They love it when Jordan Mailata is number 4,
Right. Yeah, I hear you.
deservedly so, or Lane Johnson's at the top of the list, or Jalen Hurts is at the top of the list in 2022. They love it. Love it. It's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Then when they tell the truth about another particular player, all of a sudden, oh, PFF doesn't know what they're talking about. No, I said, there's contextual things, schemes and bits and things like that. But generally, I say how I define it, as long as you understand what it is, it's very valuable. And what it is essentially film grading. And what is your job? And it's not perfect. It's not a perfect science. Nobody's trying to say it's a perfect science. But when they say a player's playing well, he's playing well. And when they say a player's playing poorly, he's playing poorly.
Yeah, generally it's in the right ballpark. I will say that about PFF. I'm admittedly not a huge PFF dude. I do appreciate it for context of conversation. I appreciate when you use it, and I do think that's the one thing they are correct on. Like when there's like what's AJ Brown graded? Watch, he's going to be graded pretty damn high.
Yeah,
on
and
PFF.
then again, yeah, when AJ was top 10 last year, right where he should be, then it's great. And again, 6th the year prior. So AJ's been 2nd in 2020, 5th in 2021, 6th in 2022, 9th last season. It's great. When Devin White's 80 of 82, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Maybe they do know what they're talking about. You ever think of that, Eagles fans?
Nerds are smart. You know what they say. I was not a nerd, but I do love nerds. My brother's a nerd. I'm a nerd fan. So John's right. PFF is nerds, but hey, look, nerds are smart. So there's merit to what they're saying for sure. John, let's get to our commercial break. We got one more commercial break, and then we'll come back. We'll briefly talk about the players under 25. So just to give you guys a little bit of a tease, ESPN did a ranking, and they ranked the top teams with players under 25. The Eagles were 29th out of 32. I don't get it, but the only player they're saying that matters under 25 for us is Jalen Carter. I don't get it. We'll talk about that next. Everybody, if you're in the chat, we appreciate you being here. Drop a like on the show. Stay tuned. Come back. We have 10 minutes left to play, and we'll wrap up Birds 365 on this Monday edition. Stay tuned, everybody.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.